Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Monday Night Raw was uncut, uncooked, and uncensored. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
I'm the new 32 meg monster. The beast is back.
Joe Gimateo.
Please, Mr. Backlund, extinguish Donk.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm Jason Bartlett. That's no relation to Rob Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. But first, before we do that, I have a very, very special announcement to make. Good friend of the show, good friend of Wrasslin Raw, PaulyJ, over at the PJWF, that's the Paul Johnson Wrestling Federation, is hooking us up. Last week, Joe made the request for a Donk versus Undertaker casket match, in which, hopefully, Donk gets his ass fucking buried. And PaulyJ is hooking that up for us. We're going to be sharing some promotional material that he put together for us, where he's going to be doing a photo shoot with us, or for us, I should say. And we're going to be putting all of this out together in the upcoming weeks, so keep your eyes open for that. Social media accounts, everything. In the meantime, check out his Twitter and Insta feeds. His Twitter handle is at PaulyJ. That's PAULYJ 2685. And on Instagram, PAULYJ 32685. So please be on the lookout for that. I'm super excited to see what PaulyJ is going to come up with.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pauly. I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, he's got another Instagram, PJWF Mania, where he puts a lot of photos on there. He actually had one of Jake Roberts wearing the Intercontinental belt, which was pretty great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He's got a lot of photos on there that are really good, so give it a like.
Hell yes. It's pretty safe to say that we here at Wrasslin Raw fucking love PaulyJ, so... That being said, in this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on December 12th, 1994. This Raw was recorded at the Liberty Central High School in Liberty, New York, and features Vince McMahon and the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then, let's get into it. So we're going to be cutting promos right off the bat here. It's going to be like a glamour shot, kind of, with just like a black background and a side view, like a kind of staggered side view of each of these people. First up is Bob Backlund. Doink! You've been manipulating the people in the WWF long enough. Matter of fact, you've besmirched them in a sea of hypocrisy! And tonight, the chicken wing is going to extinguish you. Horrible. Next up is Donk, as if it couldn't get any better. Bob Backlund, two-time WWF champ. I got a lot of respect for you, Bob Backlund, but tonight you're going to find out that you're not the only one with an amateur background. At this point, I threw up in my mouth a little bit. You're going to find out that the Doinkster is ready for you and your chicken wing.
Sweetly.
Yeah, and after these two promos is where we hit our entrance music. Welcome, everybody, to Liberty, New York. Liberty Central High School Auditorium. Now, there's going to be not quite as much, but still some more putting over of Diesel tonight with Shawn Michaels on the mic at commentary. And as they ease into the chatter for the night, this is going to take us into our first match. Bob Backlund defeats Donk the Clown with Dink by submission in 12 minutes and 27 seconds. Whew. First off, Backlund comes down to no music. He's got a lot of heat on him. People hate him. Kind of hard to tell if it's good heat or bad heat. I guess there's kind of really no such thing as bad heat, but People hate him. We'll leave it at that. There is a small pop, for Dink, as they're awaiting the presence of Donk. Dink comes down the entryway into the ring, and Dink gets in the ring, and he's acting as if he's the one that Backlund is going to be taking on. And I have to admit that would be pretty fucking cool to see Bob Backlund put the chicken wing on fucking Dink and just annihilate him. That would be number one, baby. But no, this has been a distraction as Donk comes up behind Backlund and pulls Backlund's feet out from under him. In anybody other than a prankster, this would be a heel move. But since it's Donk, we're going to forget it. The drop toe hold to start the match is extremely slow and telegraphed, and that is going to set the pace for the night. Donk is looking a little heavy. He's got a couple extra rolls under the outfit, I'm noticing. Vince is really hyping Donk's amateur background, and I don't think we're talking about amateur jobbing, which is what Donk really is here at this point. I think we're talking about actual amateur wrestling. Vince lets us know that people are pretty upset about President Clinton firing Dr. Joyce Elders. Ms. Elders is the president of the Bob Backlund fan club, apparently. Vince reminds us again of the Diesel Championship victory, and meanwhile in the ring, Backlund and Donk start with some real wrestling moves. At one point, and Ryan, please fact check my wrestling terms here, but I think he puts on a ride and then a sit down.
Mm-hmm. Or sit out at one point to escape.
Yeah, there were some attempts at real wrestling moves here, and it's being made abundantly clear here that this is going to be chock full of real wrestling. Very few of these moves look good. Some look serviceable, but again, most are just slow and very obviously telegraphed. At this point in the match, Backlund has Donk's face paint smeared all over his back and face from some of these heavy physical contact moves. The kids love Donk. There's a crowd chant that gets going for him a couple times. They're saying doink, not jobber, but, they're kids. They don't know what they're talking about. We're going to do a quick commercial break, and nothing has changed. We come back to sitting in an arm bar. Here, Donk's onesie has come unfastened, and it's starting to bunch up around his gut. Michaels comments on this, saying that Backlund is softening Donk up and also disrobing him, saying Donk's mud flap is out. And we're back in another armbar. Dink is getting frustrated at ringside. He's either speaking in an accent that's too thick to understand or shouting in the language of his native land. I'm not sure. Backlund is now covered head to toe in Donk's face paint. He's got it fucking everywhere. And it's all about the holds now. Backlund is working hard on Donk's arm. The pacing here is horrible. Backlund locks Donk into the chicken wing and takes him down to the mat. The bell is rung for the submission. Backlund refuses to let go. He's murdering this clown. Dink is distraught at the damage that Donk has taken. And after they get them apart and get Donk out of the ring, Backlund sticks around to really soak in the heat. And that's going to close out this match. Joe, was this match everything you hoped it would be?
It was the absolute shits. Drizzling. Yeah, really bad. It started with Dink coming out with no Donk, and I thought, wow, this would be cool. Maybe I'd rather see Dink versus Bob Backlund anyway.
Yeah, what we saw from Survivor Series, he's a better wrestler.
Yeah. While this match was happening, I was wondering when Backlund is going to get his rubber match against Diesel, and I guess they were mentioning it. I guess it's going to happen at Royal Rumble, but I don't know if they actually said that. Because I was just so bored with this match, I had to think about other things. I noticed the dot matrix doink sign up front, the face paint all over Backlund's body, like you mentioned, Jason. I mean, this Donk actually works fairly well as a technical wrestler for like the first couple minutes, but then it's just like, all right, these guys are clearly struggling to make this work. And you noted that the crowd was chanting at one point. I had noted that they could not possibly care any less about this match. There was like 25 back body drops in this match. Thank Friar Ferguson, we at least got some of the banter between Sean and Vince on commentary to help get through this drizzling shits of a match. I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, that makes sense, Joe. I'm in agreement with both of you here. This was unbelievably boring and bad. Here we are, our wonderful anchor match of the night, starting off with Bob Backlund and Donk the Clown.
Dunk. Dunkaroos.
I mean, we're expecting shit. That's what we got. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. As you mentioned, Joe, though, when we started off with Dink in the ring, I was like, got a little bit excited, like maybe we'll get something here. And I got a kick out of Shawn Michaels saying, if Bob were to put the crossface on Dink, what will we call it? The cross clown face sparrow wing? Nice line out of Michaels there. And that's kind of the par for the course with this match. I'm listening to Vince and Michaels because the match itself is just so slow and boring. Vince mistakenly at one point mentions that Donk is a tremendous wrestler.
Yeah,
he must still think it's Matt playing Doink here.
Yeah,
he must be a little confused. Even Michaels says, yeah, but he still looks goofy. It's like you said, they were chanting for him. And the first time that they started the Donk chant, you could see in the crowd, the kids were definitely behind it. A little bit later in the match, though, the third or fourth times that they started the chant, it didn't really look like anyone in the crowd was actually chanting it. And they were just piping that part in. But, you know, here comes a slow takedown from Donk. Vince starts telling us about how you get cauliflower ear at one point, when, just like Bob Backlund has when Donk has his head in a scissor hold. That's about the most exciting of the moves we get here out of Donk is a scissor hold to the face. Couple ugly belly to belly slams out of him. I mean, just boring ass shit. Michaels talking about Backlund going crazy. Said that he heard he snapped because he broke one of the heads off of his animal crackers. That's how crazy he is. Yeah, I'm going to end it with what a slow, boring match with lots of arm bars, wrist locks, and headlocks to accommodate for Donk's limited skill set.
Yeah, I wish Dink would have shoe shined him at the end there. Like when he's got him in the chicken wing, he's just like, pleading for the referee to make it stop.
Best part of the match is when he finally is beaten and they're pushing him out of the ring and Michael says, yeah, push him out. He's done. I agree.
Yeah. Please, forever.
Well, we'll get our wish here pretty soon because he's going to get fucking buried over at PJWF.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys just said. And I did want to clarify that the only time that I noted a crowd chant, it was very clearly just the children that were chanting for him. There were no adults buying this bullshit.
But later on, I didn't even see the children mouthing it.
Yeah. Again, agreed with you guys on just about all of it. Really, it's really got me missing real Doink, Matt Bourne. This match. It's obviously easy to say in hindsight and with no real basis for comparison, but I would have liked to have think that Matt Bourne would have had a good match with just about anybody, Bob Backlund included. We're going to move it along to our next segment. This is going to be a video montage and some ringside chat. The WWF Tag Team Championship was vacated when the best of friends became bitter enemies. Now, 8 teams are going to be vying for the championship in the tag team tournament, and it's kind of startling to realize that there are only 8 tag teams in the fucking WWF, because you know that Well Done wouldn't be one of them if they had more.
And they had to bring Mo back from the dead.
I'll believe that when I see it. After all, this is all on Superstars. We're not going to know for sure. They might put Oscar in there. They gave Oscar the blonde mohawk. We're going to get a video montage showing all of the people that are going to be in this tag team tournament. And the montage was blowing through them really fast. I had to pause it repeatedly to get to see like who all was there. First, they're showing us Men on a Mission with Mo. They used one of their old graphic cards, though, from back before Mabel became, whoop, there it is, Barney. So I don't know. It didn't look like they had an updated picture of Mo. So I'm still skeptical on Mo. Next is Head Shrinkers with Fatu and Sion. Still don't like Sion in this. He's just really out of place. Then Bam Bam Bigelow with Tatanka. Well Done. The Smoking Guns. Owen Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. The Heavenly Bodies and the Bushwhackers. It is, again, telling that two of these tag teams are singles. Well, I mean, you could make an argument for Jim the Anvil, but two of these tag teams are singles put together as tag teams to round this out and give them a full fucking bracket of 8. Pretty pathetic, in my opinion. The WWF Tag Team Tournament, only on Superstars. We're not going to be seeing any of it here on Raw. We will only be seeing the final match to declare the champions at the Royal Rumble. Then they're going to show the brackets that this tournament is going to go through, with the first round being Bam Bam and Tatanka versus Men on a Mission, then the Head Shrinkers versus the Anvil and Owen, the Heavenly Bodies versus the Bushwhackers, and the Smoking Guns versus Well Done. Real quick, guys, Ryan, you first, and then Joe, I want to hear your thoughts about this tag team tournament now that we know who's in it and what the brackets are, and just this whole tag team situation in general.
I mean, there's not really much to think about. They gave us about 5.5 seconds to look at this, bracket and montage.
Yeah.
So they don't even really let us think much about it. And based on the current tag teams in the WWF, I guess it kind of makes sense. There's no one great. There's no one sticking out. To round out and have an even amount of teams, they have to just throw in Bam Bam and Tatanka. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, not much. I don't think we're missing much.
Yeah, and I have to think that Bam Bam and Tatanka, maybe the Smoking Guns, would be the favorites to win it in this. It's clear that the tag team division is the worst that it's been.
Yeah.
You had Legion of Doom leave in, 92, I think, and then the Steiners left in 93. So, I mean, it's just, there's nobody. There's no star power there at all.
Hasn't been for a while. This is reminiscent of the Quebecers and just all of the stupid shit that was happening back then.
Worse.
Yeah, actually.
At least it existed then.
But my God, at least Mo is back.
Thank Friar Ferguson. There was a Mo-sized hole in my heart. All right, well, we won't dwell on it anymore. I am a little bit excited just to see how they figure these brackets, or not figure, but, how they wind up coming out, who wins against who. I'm hoping for the Heavenly Bodies to get through, but something tells me they won't. Pretty sure the Smoking Guns are going to do well here. Not positive about that, but I see their time in the sun coming. Next in this same ringside segment, they're going to insert some Acclaim Raw is War gameplay. Shawn Michaels is going to very obviously fake playing the game. He's going to basically just button mash, not knowing what he's doing to the controller, and we're going to get some gameplay on the screen. Again, graphics are awesome. Game looks great. Then Vince is going to pitch a new VHS from Coliseum Home Video, the WWF Raw Strategies and Secrets Tape, the video guide, is what it says on the cover. And by the sounds of things, this isn't so much a strategy guide as it is a money grab.
Secrets.
Yeah. With video of superstars talking about what they would do versus other superstars. It very much reminded me of the 1-900 Shameless ads we got, where you could call back every 5 minutes to hear a different superstar's opinions and locker room gossip.
I bet you this one's $20 at a pop, though.
Yeah, those VHSs weren't cheap. I wonder if anybody bought them. It didn't sound very intriguing or interesting at all.
On the game, though, itself, I gotta say, like, WWE has always knocked it out of the park with video games, and it probably started like around this time too, where they started to really
up until maybe the most recent year, which this most recent year was a really, really bad one. But
yeah, but even like a lot of the newer 2K games are very popular.
Oh yeah, and they're fun.
Yeah.
So, speaking of champions, Razor Ramon is going to be in action next here in a minute. But before that, real quick, Monday Night Raw is being brought to you by Nintendo, the creators of Donkey Kong Country, the new 32 Meg Monster, only for the Super NES. Donkey Kong Country, the Beast, is back.
I loved that read. When he read that, I laughed my ass off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking love that game too, by the way.
It's why I had to use it for the intro. I laughed my ass off when I heard it.
Oh, yeah.
I wound up getting the Game Boy version after they ported it to Game Boy.
Yeah, I played the shit out of that on Super Nintendo.
So, speaking of nasty individuals, this is going to take us into our next segment, which is a Double J Jeff Jarrett vignette.
Ha ha!
Yeah. Since Double J has been rejected from Music City, USA, now he's trying to make his home out in Las Vegas, Nevada. Jarrett is great here in character. Nashville missed the boat on Double J, but Las Vegas wants the country music superstar. He's invited everybody along with him, photographers, lackeys, etc., and we're going to see who wins the big jackpot in the Double J sweepstakes. I have no idea what he's talking about here. All I know is that there aren't any cable pullers in the scene. Vince doesn't seem to know either, because when we come back to Liberty Central, we're going to go into our next match. But first, Joe, what did you think about this brief and confusing Double J vignette?
Well, yeah, it was a little confusing, but I have to say that we are fresh off the Super Bowl. We had a halftime show with J-Lo and Shakira. I would like to beg and plead that we get next year's halftime show to be the world's greatest singer, wrestler, and entertainer, Double J.
I'd watch that.
Well, I mean, yeah, I would too, but my God. Is that tinsel on his obliques?
The only real thing I had to say about it was it really stuck out to me how many times he ha-ha'd in this video.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was every other syllable was a ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, that's what confused me about it. Well, one of two things. The first thing that confused me about it was this big jackpot thing, the Double J sweepstakes. I have no idea what that's all about. If it's maybe just
maybe we missed something
things
from Superstars or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But the other thing that confused me was this very, very forced laughter. Double J is usually much better than this for cutting promos. I was a little put off, to be honest. Didn't quite know what to think of it. But be that as it may, we're going to move on to our next match. Razor Ramon defeats Mark Starr by pinfall in 3 minutes and 18 seconds. And Mark Starr is our jobber of the week. Take it, Ryan.
Thank you, Jason. Mark Starr is this week's jobber. Mark Starr was born Mark Ashford Smith in Stanfordshire, England, on December 26, 1962. He made his in-ring debut in 1986, wrestling for the Memphis, Tennessee-based Continental Wrestling Association, or CWA. At the beginning of his career, he used his real name, Mark Ashford Smith, but quickly started using the in-ring name Mark Starr. In 87, Mark held the CWA tag team belts with partner Stephen Kern, but the title run would only last 12 days, dropping the belt to the team of Paul Diamond and Pat Tatanka. In 88, he started teaming with his real-life brother Chris. Although really brothers, neither would use their actual last name, Mark using Starr and Chris going by the name Chris Champion. Together, they would hold the CAW tag team belts for 3 months in 89, before losing them to the Rock and Roll Express. Between 1989 and 1993, Mark competed in both singles and tag match for both Florida-based Professional Wrestling Federation, or the PWF, and Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling. And in 1993, Mark joined WCW and stayed there until 1998, outside of 3 matches that he wrestled for the WWF in 94. He spent the first couple years in WCW as a singles jobber, losing to the likes of Alex Wright, Sergeant Craig Pittman, and Road Warrior Hawk. 95 through 96, Mark would be one half of the jobber tag team Men at Work. His partner was former Jobber of the Week Chris Kanyon.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, for over a year, they would face off against WCW's biggest tag teams, losing to all of them. After 96, Starr would return to being a singles jobber, with losses to Dean Malenko, the Ultimo Dragon, and Diamond Dallas Page. He would also be one of Goldberg's victims during his 173-match winning streak. Starr's final match of his career took place against Sick Boy at a Nitro show on February 16, 1998. He was forced into retirement shortly after this match due to back issues. Sadly, Starr is no longer with us. He died from a heart attack in Braden, Florida on June 7, 2013. He was 50 years old.
Jeez.
I do remember the name Mark Starr in those WCW days.
Yeah, I mean, clearly much more prominent in WCW than the WWF. Only 3 matches here.
Yeah.
The Men at Work gimmick with Chris Kanyon, that was the one where they used the tape measure, right?
Yes. Yep. That was the one where they would
tripping people.
Start
tripping themselves.
No. They would start to tape measure things at inopportune moments, causing them to lose the match.
That's right.
And they should have used the safety dance as their entrance music.
Right. Missed opportunity there.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. Enlightening as always. Back to the match here. Razor's going to come down to the ring, and Razor barely gets past the pyro before they light it up. I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but he was like maybe 6 or 8 inches past it whenever they kicked it on.
Almost had a Michael Jackson moment here.
It goosed it, like it kind of goosed him a little bit. You could see he kind of like popped forward a little bit like, ooh. Yeah, that's going to set the tenor for the rest of the match here. Mark Starr is already in the ring waiting, and there's some banter at ringside about Double J's album. And then there's banter about Barbara Walters' 10 most fascinating people list. Sean spends some time making fun of Barbara Walters' lisp, calling her Babwa Wawa, which, for anybody that grew up in the 90s or was socially conscious in the 90s, that was like kind of a running joke with a lot of things and a lot of people, is calling Barbara Walters Babwa Wawa for some reason. I get it, but I never really thought it was all that funny. In the ring, Razor slaps the living shit out of Mark Starr. Mark Starr comes off the rope to attempt a crossbody. Razor catches him, but it seems like Mark Starr didn't work it quite so well because the momentum of the attempted crossbody carries Razor backwards for a few steps, and during those few steps, Razor steps on his own toe. His left leg buckles, and they both fall backwards into the ropes. They cover it all very well, though, as Mark Starr goes to work on the knee that buckled, and Vince comments on that and says, I wasn't able to really understand that. He says that was a talk or a top.
Yeah, something. Basically, he made it sound like it was a rumor this week that his knee was an issue.
Yeah. The way he put it was, that was a talk.
I believe he said it was a topic this week.
Topic. Okay. Yeah, it was really hard to understand him in that part of the sentence. But yeah, they did a really good job of covering this almost botch. Obviously, Mark Starr heard the same rumor because he's going to go after the knee pretty heavily. And I had to note, while I didn't really care for most of the match here, that the way that they covered this was extremely professional work. I have to at least give them that. They covered it very, very well. Razor ultimately regains the upper hand, calls for the Razor's Edge, barely gets him up into it, lands it, and gets the pinfall. Razor continues to sell the knee as he gimps around the ring and exits. Ryan, please get us started on this match.
It's an okay match. I mean, I picked Mark Starr as the jobber only because, man, he was the best jobber of the night. He wasn't phenomenal by any means, but he was serviceable. The point where he jumps into Razor and he catches him, it was kind of tough to tell exactly what happened because there was a camera cut right at that moment too. So it was kind of confusing to see if he was coming in a little bit too hot or if he just caught him wrong or exactly what happened there. But like you said, the announcers and everyone in the ring covered it very professionally, covered it up. But very short match. They're talking about Bobber Walters the whole time with Michael saying, seriously now, Wazer, things like that. It felt like it came from the mid-90s, some of the jokes he was dropping there. Probably my favorite part of the whole match, though, was at one point, Mark actually has Razor in the corner and he's beating him on it. And Vince says, Mark Starr, he might just be a star. Oh, forget about it. Oh, my, as Razor reverses it. That was the highlight of the match. Everything else was pretty forgettable.
Mark Starr earned his jobber of the week by taking the slaps because Razor was just slapping the shit out of him.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought it up, Bartlett, with Razor with Razor almost getting hit with the pyro, because I have noted here that I miss having the pyro in the ring. They don't really do that anymore, and this is clearly the reason why.
Except maybe Kane. Does Kane still get...
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure.
That was on the ring posts. And they made sure to have everybody in the center of the ring.
Sure, but it was still, fireworks on the ring.
The only other thing I'll say is I will go on record thinking that was not a botch. I do not think that was a botch.
You think that it was an actual storyline they were playing up with his knee?
Yes.
Do tell.
I think so. I have no theory as to why.
You don't have any Meltzer information that he did?
No,
Okay.
I have nothing. That's kind of part of the reason, because usually Meltzer will report Razor has to rest his knee, or Razor needs surgery or whatever like that, and there wasn't anything noted. But I just thought the way that they did it, it was kind of slow moving. It wasn't quick. I feel like it was planned.
You may be right.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I went back just so I could be sure as to what was going on. I went back and rewatched it a couple times, and it looked like he really did step on his own toe, from what I could see at least. I mean, I don't believe in this hard enough to really fucking argue it or anything, but it really looked like he was stepping on his own toe and tripping himself. I don't know.
We'll have to ask Razor.
Yeah, once we finally negotiate a price that he can pay us to get on the show, we'll get that taken care of. We're going to move on to our next segment, and this is going to be a Make-A-Wish Foundation segment. With the holiday seasons approaching, Vince is feeling charitable, apparently. It starts with Donk the Clown holding a small child, maybe about a year old, and the child is very obviously fucking terrified. Can't really blame him or her. But just when we thought it couldn't get any scarier, here's Todd Pettingzoo using his calm, caring voice. When you purchase a WWF Holiday Wish Bear, partial proceeds from every commemorative bear sold benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation. The bears are limited in quantity and only available while supplies last. I felt my cynical Grinch heart melt just a little bit at this good gesture from the folks at the WWF.
It may be the partial proceeds go to.
Yeah.
And the funeral music that they are playing in the background. That was what really stuck out to me. I was like, these kids aren't dead yet. Why are you playing the funeral music?
My wish is to see Donk get buried in a casket match. And then they play the funeral music. Oh, that was funny. Yeah. Well, I wanted to be a jaded son of a bitch about the whole partial proceeds thing. But then I was like, well, they didn't have to do anything at all. They could have just done nothing and ignored the dying children. So, I don't know. Partial proceeds is better than zero proceeds, I guess, right?
I guess it depends on if they're turning a profit off of it and giving a couple cents to Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Oh, I completely agree. There are details that need to be known about that.
But outside of that, a lot of the wrestlers in general have been known throughout the years to be really good to Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Oh, yeah. I
know, in modern times, John Cena, I think, has the record for the amount of times a celebrity has shown up for a Make-A-Wish Foundation. Yeah. So, they have to be commended for that.
The only thing I have here is that they should have had someone else do this commercial, because Todd Pettingzoo using his warm, serious tone was just odd, because we're used to him doing his stupid fucking jokes.
The best person to ask about this whole partial proceeds thing and the possible tax benefits of it is going to be coming up here in the next segment, King's Court. We're going to take a quick commercial break while Jerry the King Lawler is making his way to the ring. And there are some holiday-related jokes, none good enough to repeat here. But we're going to give our next guest the royal welcome. Everybody, put your hands together for Erwin R. Shyster, IRS. Just as a personal note, I got a kick out of this because about 4 hours before watching this Raw and taking my notes, I was filing my 2019 state and federal taxes. I get it done early every year, so I don't wind up like some poor soul paying the penalty.
I thought you were going to say you were watching Daryl Strawberry highlights.
Daryl.
So IRS is going to come to the ring, followed by two druids. The druids have their hoods pulled down so low that they have to lift them up a little bit so as not to run into the King's Court furniture. I don't really know what the point of all of this is. There's talk about sports stars charging people for autographs and not paying taxes, as if that's a thing. He names Joe DiMaggio and Daryl Strawberry not paying their taxes, which I'm pretty sure Daryl Strawberry did get into some trouble for tax evasion or something back in the 90s. Can't remember that exactly.
Do you have to pay tax on cocaine?
Import tax. And in a really, really shitty, ham-fisted segue, we get down to the nitty-gritty point of all of this. The biggest tax cheat of them all is obviously The Undertaker. He claims to have the power of the urn, but IRS has the power of the $1 Million Man and the Druids, because one logically follows the other, you see. He doesn't have the power of the federal government. He has the power of these guys in black robes. Supposedly, The Undertaker has friends, but IRS has friends, and one of those friends might be The Undertaker's enemy. We go around with this a couple times. It was pretty fucking ridiculous. We're going to get a clip from the previous Raw, a recent Raw, I should say, not the previous Raw, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this was, I think, 2 weeks before this Raw, where Adam Bomb had faced IRS, and that one druid fucking murdered Adam Bomb by nudging him off the top rope, allowing IRS to get the pin. But this whole time, the King and IRS are talking about what happened after that pin. So we've got some non-synchronous action happening here. We've got video footage of something that nobody's talking about. Meanwhile, they're talking about something that is not shown on video footage. They're talking about when Lex Luger came out after the pinfall to defend Adam Bomb from IRS and the Druid whenever they were stomping a mud hole in him after the pin. Just the timing here is very off, very disjointed. Bottom line is, next week, one-on-one, Lex Luger versus IRS. Joe, I want to hear how much you loved this whole King's Court segment.
Hated it. I hated everything about it. And Lex Luger is just a random Lex Luger match. Just throw him into whatever now, because we got nothing for you, pal. That's it. Fuck him.
Yeah. Total agreement here. This was a pretty worthless King's Court. The most entertaining thing was when King was making his way to the ring. At the very beginning, he pointed to a couple women in the crowd. And but when I saw them, I immediately thought that they were plants because they look like extras from the Married with Children set or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
King Kong Bundy is there.
Yeah.
You know, since you mentioned that, this is something that I've thought a couple times now, and I'm not sure, but the times that they point these women out in the audience are always when they're in New York. Mm-hmm. And if you'll remember, whenever Raw first started, they had the Raw ring girls where sometimes it was like the middle-aged fat women that were the ring girls. And I'm pretty sure they're the same people. I could be wrong about that, but I think you're right in that they're plants.
Well, there was a group of women, I forget what their last name was, Rosati sisters or something like that.
Yes.
Bobby Heenan, like this was before this.
Yeah,
Bobby
that was
Heenan,
way before this.
Yeah. And I think these are the same women. So I think
were these those women? Okay.
I believe so.
They showed up so quick, I wasn't sure. I just thought of Married with Children when I saw them.
And last week, whenever Shawn Michaels was like, I can't believe Butch just kissed that whale.
Yeah.
I think it was them.
Yeah.
I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that's who that is.
Okay.
Throughout the first half of 1993, we would have the Raw ring girls, and like half the time they would be actual legit hot women. And then the other half of the time it would be fat white women. And then that's who, same people, I think.
But that's the only thing to talk about in this segment. Pretty boring stuff out of IRS here. And then his segue into the Undertaker being a tax cheat and stuff about I'm not your buddy and I'm not your pal and whatever the fuck's going on.
Not your buddy, guy.
Confusing and stupid.
You know what I hate the most about this is that these two haven't even seen each other. It's all just IRS talking.
Yeah. We haven't seen The Undertaker in weeks.
Good
right.
call.
And we haven't heard anything from The Undertaker or Paul Bearer about IRS.
No. They haven't even acknowledged a single thing about him.
Right.
Yeah, good call on all of that. I totally agree. It is, well, first of all, I mean, it was a shit King's Court. But to its credit, it did establish it was a vehicle for setting up a match for next week. That's the kind of King's Court I like, short and relatively to the point. What was disappointing the most for me, however, was I finally realized, and I like IRS. I did as a kid, and I still kind of like him as an adult, but that's slowly fading away the more we get into this storyline. Watching this, I realized that I prefer my IRS doing short, simple promos that aren't really pointed at anybody in particular, where they just, he calls people in general tax cheats and shit talks everybody in general. He can't cut a promo for a storyline for shit, as we've seen over the past however many weeks of, the Graveyard and now this. It's getting progressively worse. At first I was like, oh, how kitschy, how interesting. They're doing something different with IRS, but
hey, if you want to look up, Hakushi is coming.
Look up in the clouds.
Yeah, our next segment is going to be another Hakushi intro vignette. And it's going to start off like the last one did with a nice blue cloudy sky with a Japanese character on it. And by character, I mean part of the Japanese written language, not a cartoon character. But I spoke too soon because the sky turns dark and thunderous, and we have a silhouette of the God of Thunder, Raiden, getting ready to perform one of his finishing moves in Mortal Kombat. Hakushi is coming to the WWF. And it's a different kind of cat, as Shawn Michaels would say. That's what Vince tells us. We're not going to spend too much time dwelling on that because next we're going to cue the rhythms of Miami because it's time for our next match. Aldo Montoya defeats Nick Barbary by pinfall in 2 minutes and 39 seconds. Aldo gets some pinwheel pyro while Nick Barbary is already in the ring. I had to note it was something that tickled my brain the last time we saw Aldo Montoya, but Aldo Montoya's ring gear, I'm talking the face mask, the tights, the shin guards, the boots, all of it. It all looks like it's Nerf brand wrestling gear.
You know, it's funny you say that because he has he wears, I don't know if it's a belt or what it is, but I thought it was a Under Armour logo.
Yes.
And
yes.
I thought to myself, I didn't think Under Armour was around then. And then I looked at it closer and it's not. It's like probably some Aldo Montoya logo.
So maybe that's why he doesn't wrestle anymore. He sued Under Armour for taking his logo, and he's just
stole my idea.
His profits.
Well, the match is going to get started, and the action in the ring isn't all that bad. Montoya seems to have improved since we last saw him. But wait, who's that? It's pound for pound the toughest man walking the streets today. Handsome Harvey Whippleman is making his way down to the ring. He's apparently scouting either Nick Barbary or Aldo Montoya. We don't get much else from that angle. I was kind of hoping that we would get him kind of trying to do like $1 Million Man thing and trying to offer his services to Aldo, and Aldo turning it down, but no dice on that. Vince says that Harvey invited Newt Gingrich over to his house for Christmas. I couldn't tell if that was like a dig or what, because Vince is usually heavily on the side of the Republicans here in the 90s, but we don't know that for sure. Next week, there's going to be Harvey and his tag team Well Done taking on the Bushwhackers again, but this time ring announcer Howard Finkel, the Fink, is going to be the Bushwhackers manager for the match. So all of that stupid shit last week is the build-up for this. Well Done taking on the Bushwhackers again with Fink as the manager. God damn it.
Riveting television.
Shawn Michaels makes reference to Aldo Montoya's mask looking like a jockstrap, saying that he had something that looked just like it hanging in his high school locker. Montoya lands a bulldog off the top rope to secure the pin, and I do think it's safe to say that the Portuguese Man of War has improved significantly since his last match. As we get the Fink announcing the win, handsome Harvey Whippleman interrupts him, puts over the tag team match next week. It is a horrible promo that Whippleman cuts on the Fink. Thankfully, it's short. Ryan, let's hear what you thought about what is the second time we've seen Aldo Montoya in action.
Like you said, the Man o' War was, he seemed to be a little bit calmer, a little bit more in groove this time in his second outing. Unfortunately, his jobber, Nick Barbary, is the bottom of the barrel. I mean, he does a lot of telegraphing. He doesn't look the part at all. He's one of the most out of shape jobbers we've seen in quite some time. He doesn't really have any muscle mass. He's just kind of blubbery. He's I mean, he's
Is this
tall.
a Hans and Franz segment?
Jesus Christ.
He's a girly man.
Yeah. He looks like one of those bullies from like an 80s high school movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like just completely worthless. So needless to say, he will not be a jobber of the week anytime soon. But Aldo does look pretty decent in the ring. Like you could see he's trying everything he can. Just Nick Barbary is a weighted anklet around his ankle.
Jesus, my God.
Did you have a thesaurus over there opened to the section for the word fat? My God.
It's so flabby.
I'm doing my best Bob Backlund over here.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we get more of this ridiculous Finkel Whippleman feud bullshit. Apparently, Well Done has moved up in the ranks out of jobber tag team because they're even being brought up in other people's matches now. So I'd have to say they're no longer jobbers, but pretty forgettable match out of old Jockface here.
I was going to put Nick Barbary over big time, but Ryan already did, so I don't know. I don't have much to say that hasn't been said already. I will say with Aldo Montoya, it's just too much to me. Everything about him is just too much. His ring work is too much. His ring gear, there's too much going on there. It's kind of like one of those situations where, you know, a lot of wrestlers talk about, you know, oh, I never really got over until I started acting more like myself.
Yeah.
And this guy, there's just too much going on. I love when Harvey comes out and they say something about him, and Sean this time said, oh, here comes the powerhouse himself, Harvey Whippleman. And that's all I got.
Going to be agreeing with you guys on just about all of that. Joe, that's a great way of putting it about the too much. And I know it's kind of a general statement, but you're absolutely right. It is just too much everything. And Aldo Montoya's outfit makes me think of Vince's fashion sense being like 5 years too late, because he's got the neon colors and the nerfiness going on that you would have expected in like late 80s, early 90s fashion.
Like out of a Ninja Turtles movie or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Max Moon all over again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're going to move it along here to a vignette and WWF Mania review.
Moving along.
Yeah. IRS versus Lex Luger next week. The tax man is collecting all the necessary forms in order to give Lex Luger many happy returns. Lex Luger battles IRS next week on Monday Night Raw. We're going to have some highlights from the WWF Mania 100th episode show. Petting Zoo apparently got his mullet trimmed for it, and he got a new co-host as a present. Stephanie is her name. I think her last name is Weiland, but regardless, she doesn't... What is it?
It's pronounced Wind, but it is spelled Wiand.
Okay.
I thought it was like Wyand.
Yeah, I was trying. I rewound it 100 times, so I just had to look her up.
Okay. Well, regardless, she doesn't look like anybody that was going to fit in with Petting Zoo on a Saturday morning wrestling clip show. That's for goddamn sure. I was like, where the fuck did they pull this news anchor from?
Well, if you guys can believe this, she's just as annoying as Todd, so it fits well.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, this is going to take us into our final match of the night. King Kong Bundy defeats Bob Knight by pinfall in 4 minutes and 9 seconds. Take a look at this walking bus, everybody. King Kong Bundy.
Best line out of Vince all night.
Bob Knight is in the ring waiting, and instead of a red sweater and a chair to throw, he has a rat tail and a pedo mustache. There's some talk of Roseanne here.
We're back to that.
For me, it's a red flag situation. It makes me want to tune out commentary, so I didn't note any of it. Maybe if one of you guys wants to talk about it, you go for it, but I'm not all about the Roseanne.
Don't you wait.
Bundy runs Bobby Knight into the ring post. It looks really rough, or else it's just sold really well, but either way, it made me physically wince like, ooh, that looked like that was fucking rough. Shawn Michaels comments on the Hoosiers, and Vince has to remind him and us that this is not the same Bobby Knight. Bundy can't stop yelling and roaring at Bobby Knight this whole time. This whole match, it's Bundy yelling at Bobby Knight. Shawn Michaels is reading advice to the lovelorn in the most recent issue of the WWF magazine at ringside because he can't be bothered to watch this match. Again, Bundy is yelling, "Get up!" at Bobby Knight. His behavior is not coming across as a heel so much as an asshole. There's a kid in some Steelers gear holding up a homemade sign that says Ping Pong Bundy. Fucking pride of Pittsburgh there.
Yeah.
Yeah, spelled Bundey.
He was a little kid. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
Fucking dumbass.
Representing Pittsburgh real fine there, kid.
Bundy starts roaring 5 and asks the ref for 5, but he doesn't get it when he finally pins Bobby Knight. Yeah, I was very pleased to see that. And then as we're fading from this match, Bundy is making the championship belt gesture towards the hard camera. And I'm not sure what championship picture he thinks he's in, but it's certainly not in the WWF, as far as we know here on Raw. And we're going to exit this debacle with a view of Ted DiBiase's kisser projected onto the mat. Joe, what did you think of this match?
Take a look at that kisser. I only have comments about the commentary because the match is just putrid. So Sean talks about Roseanne. They talk about Roseanne taking Demi Moore's place in Disclosure, which I've never seen Disclosure. Have you guys seen that?
I've only read the book.
It's an erotic thriller. So I don't know. Demi Moore in an erotic thriller sounds interesting, but only a 58% on the tomato meter. So I don't know. Maybe Roseanne would have given it a little bit of a higher tomato meter score.
It was not the best of Michael Crichton's books.
Okay. Well, I'll give it a shot. Maybe someday. Sean reading that WWF magazine. I have that magazine. That is the first in my collection. Yes, it's the first of the.
Did you pick it up and start reading it?
I have not yet, but I plan on doing that soon. Maybe provide some information to this podcast for our 4 listeners. Vince said if I was to read that magazine, I would definitely need my cheaters for that.
I thought of you as soon as he said that.
And Sean said, Ping Pong Bundy. He looks like one of those big guys you'd see in a bowling alley. And that was a pretty good description, really.
Yeah.
He said he would be the guy in the bowling alley saying, "Come on, baby, give me a spare."
Yeah.
And then Vince says, he looks more like the whole bowling alley.
Yeah, Vince is really trying to put over his size big time. But yeah, that's all I had noted.
Like you both said, pretty terrible match. I suppose we're used to it now. Every time we see King Kong Bundy come in the ring, it's kind of a signal for go take a piss break and grab a beer. The only thing, like you said, Joe, commentary. We get a happy birthday to Bob Barker. So way to go, Price is Right. That was always one of my favorite shows. So happy birthday, Bob Barker. Spade and neuter your pets.
Yes.
And then Shawn Michaels gives a happy birthday to old Blue Eyes Frank Sinatra. So Frank Sinatra shares a birthday with Bob Barker. And I thought of you, Bartlett, soon as I heard the Roseanne talk. I was like, oh, Bartlett is going to be thrilled.
Bartlett's dream woman.
Yeah. My favorite part was after Michaels brings up that it's Roseanne's birthday, Vince says, and she's pregnant. And then Vince says, apparently she'll give birth and there'll be another birthday in there somewhere. like she's some type of animal. Apparently she'll give birth.
We've got cameras set up at the enclosure.
Oh, man. But
wow, so Bob Barker, Frank Sinatra, and Roseanne all share a birthday.
Yeah,
apparently.
what a trio there. So we're just going to talk about this instead of the match, but it's pretty understandable. It's a King Kong Bundy match. One point where they're outside the ring and he tosses Knight back into the ring, even that looked bad. Like, how does tossing someone back into the ring look shitty? But King Kong managed it. Boring, stupid match. I'm done.
You know, and this is just a theory, just an opinion. I think the reason, because I noticed that too. How do you make a toss back into the ring look stupid? The same way that King Kong Bundy made a lot of these, not quite grapples, but like the way that he was manipulating his opponent around the ring. He wasn't doing it in the way that wrestlers typically do it, which is, you know, by the hair on the top of the head. He was fucking grabbing the dude's tights and wedging them straight up his ass to manipulate him around the ring. Like whenever he was tossing him back into the ring, what you just referenced, he was doing it by grabbing the guy by the back of his tights, wedging them up his ass, and then using the tights to leverage him up into the ring.
Well, it looked terrible.
Yeah, it all did. It was fucking horrible. I'm going to agree with both of you guys on all of this. Ryan, good call on knowing that I would hate the Roseanne talk. You're absolutely right. Yeah, not much to really say about the rest of this. Really wish I had something to say, you know, but here we are. So we're going to go back to ringside for our final segment, and there's the sound of sleigh bells. And Shawn Michaels tells us that Santa is coming. Stay tuned. After a quick commercial break, we're going to have Santa Claus. Santa's looking to see if he has anything for Shawn Michaels in his bag o' goodies. Last time this happened was last year, and Donk got a midget for Christmas. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But no, it's a toy WWF Women's Championship belt for Sean. Join us next week. Lex Luger is going up against IRS, and we fade to black. Highlights and lowlights. Ryan, why don't you start it?
Well, highlights, I'm not real sure. I mean, there's not many highlights tonight. I guess if I had to really be put under the gun, I'm just going to go with Shawn Michaels on commentary. I think he does a pretty entertaining job with Vince this week. That's about all I could really say for highlights. Lowlights? Pretty much everything else. I mean, the anchor match with Bob Backlund and Donk was boring. The jobber matches they ranged from okay to downright terrible. The King's Court was confusing with IRS's Undertaker feud, even though we haven't seen the dead man in weeks. Pretty lame Raw this week, I must say. It really feels like they're spinning their wheels here in mid-December waiting for Christmas or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be on the same page. I actually popped pretty hard when Santa gave Sean that ladies championship. I laughed my ass off because that's something like that wouldn't happen now.
That was pretty funny, yeah.
Yeah. And I liked with Santa, when, the bells start ringing and stuff. And Vince was almost like when he introduced Kane. He's like, that's gotta be Santa. That's Santa. My low light is I could say the rest of the show as well, but I'm going to go with that Backlund and Donk match. That was just the shits.
Yeah. I put a lot of thought into this because I didn't want to do it at first, but it really seems as though I have no choice. I have no highlights for this at all.
I struggled.
And even going back, I had to go back and re-examine my notes just to try to find something, and I have nothing. And that's not to say that this Raw was especially horrible, because personally, I feel that some of the shows that we got out of Utica there a couple months ago were much, much worse than this. But that being said, my lowlight is going to be this entire episode of Raw. I don't know what else to say about it. This was just bad. There was no quality in anything to be found here. Yeah. That's about it, man.
Yeah, that's about all there is to be said.
Yeah, and I feel bad saying it because I'm not trying to be overly negative. I'm not trying to disappoint our number one fan or anything, but I can only work with what they give me to work with, for Christ's sakes.
It was a Raw that was really bogged down in mediocrity.
Well, the good news is next week is the one with the thumbnail photo of Fink with the sideways hat.
Mm-hmm.
But now I know that it has something to do with the Bushwhackers and Harvey Wippleman.
Well, and you're getting Lex Luger versus IRS. That's sure to be a 5-star match.
Yeah. Let's fingers crossed that I make it through to next week. So, Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around December 12th, 1994 for us?
I do, starting with last week. If you remember, I said that Meltzer printed, and I had to confirm this week, he printed that this show that we are reviewing right now was going to be live from Liberty, Pennsylvania, and it's Liberty, New York. But he printed Liberty, Pennsylvania, and I thought to myself, what the fuck, because that is in the middle of nowhere. Sort of on that same topic, Meltzer, and kind of coming off of our lowlights here, Meltzer claimed this show was totally dead as far as the crowd goes.
Wonder why.
Yeah, he said the Backlund versus Donk match was a -star match. It sounds like he was just as disgusted with the show as we were, because he thinks the WWF really needs to hire some new faces to do some booking. Which is interesting because, not too far after this, we're going to get Vince Russo and Jim Cornette's going to play a bigger role in the booking. So obviously they thought that as well at some point, but not anytime soon. Meltzer saying that Bull Nakano was suspended for 6 weeks. I don't know if that's true or not.
God damn it.
Performance-enhancing drugs?
I don't know.
Say it ain't so, Bull.
That is reported, though. And also, we talked about Stephanie Wind, however you want to say her name, being a co-host with Todd Pettingzoo on WWF Mania, and they actually considered to have Tammy Fitch do that, but as we know, her and Chris Candido are not at the WWF quite yet. But that's all we have this week.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We're done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. And if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. Also, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw popping up in your podcast feed. Let us know what you think. Hit us with a 5-star review or 4 3/4 if you're Dave Meltzer, wherever you download your podcasts. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to get into the Raw that aired on December 19th, 1994, with matches featuring Chris Avery and the Smoking Guns, among others. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.